Hi everyone, I'm Aisha. For those that missed yesterday's session, I thought I'll just give myself a quick little intro. So I've been in the industry for over 4 years now as a certified nutritional therapist, and I specialise in skin health, in gut health, and in hormone health. And of course, the reason for the webinar is functional testing as well. So I have started mainly working with women, but most recently I have been working with men and children, and I work with them to help get to the root cause of their symptoms and just basically help to rebalance their bodies and regain their well-being and improve their mindset, all with nutritional therapy. Now just over to B.
Hello, my name is Baruta. I call myself B. I'm a qualified nutritional therapist, and I'm currently studying in Institute of Functional Medicine to just deepen my knowledge. I always say that I specialize in functional testing because I really love helping people to find the root cause of their health issues and to also help them optimize their health. So I work with men, women, children, families, not with animals just yet. Okay, the next slide.
Just about, so we spoke about this briefly yesterday, but I'll just touch on this today. So me and B started working together, literally it will be 3 years coming up now. And our friendship started firstly through Instagram. And we found each other on Instagram. Well, it was me more than B because I reached out to her and I noticed that with Instagram, I saw that she was in a similar area. So I just thought we'd reach out, and we got in communication with each other, and then we found out that we both studied at C&M. And then I think I graduated before B did, but we were literally at the point of trying to figure out what we're going to do with our qualification, how are we going to build a business. And then we got to know each other, and then we literally just built our way through building our social media platform, and then just from our own friendship and our own conversations with trying to build our own businesses up, we realized that functional testing, to introduce that into our business, really did change the dynamics of what we do and how we help our clients, because it really helped us figure out how to dig deeper into working with clients as well, and also just getting more information about their symptoms, because sometimes it's a bit like you kind of you don't want to guess, and people come to us as well and they want to understand exactly. They've tried dermatologists, GPs, surgeons, whatever, but they just feel like there's a missing piece to the puzzle. So anyway, we built our way through that, and then we introduced functional testing over 2 years now, and we have to say that it has been a game changer.
Yeah, I think that yeah, absolutely, introducing testing and showing people that there are other ways, because sometimes people just lose hope, or they say, oh, I tried the nutritional therapy before and I just feel like I got stuck. I feel like there's no avenues to take. So giving them that hope that actually there are things we can do, there are, you know, other ways to do things in different ways. So yeah, I think that it has been a game changer, absolutely. So the importance of functional testing is, in this slide, what we wanted to say is basically that when we started the functional testing journey, I tried everything myself. Just wanted to make sure I know how it works, I know how it feels, just like touching the functional test to just really make sure that it's something it works. So when I tested everything on myself, I started feeling really way more comfortable to offer it to people as well. And I think with social media, especially, a lot of the time people just want your personal experience. They want to see that you've already tried it, that you've already done it yourself, and then you can share your experience, and then people relate to it and they start following you, and then they start wanting your services as well.
Yeah, and I think as well, like when you do share that experience, I've also noticed that as well, people relate to it and resonate, because like people who get testing done now, they're a bit like when you have to tell them that you've got to store your stool samples in the fridge. That is the part that I literally am just like, oh God, how do I tell that to them? But they understand the reasoning behind it, and then they understand that why it has to be stored in the fridge for stability purposes. But But I think just generally as well, like using the platform to discuss functional testing really does make it increases that engagement on there, and people get to understand who your followers will understand this as well, that once you keep mentioning it, they understand the reason why you offer that to your clients as well. So I think that's really important. I think that's all we've got for this slide. So testing, of course, as I mentioned earlier about giving a root cause approach, it absolutely does. And using the platform, for example, which we mentioned a lot about yesterday, was Instagram, that we use mainly to share benefits of testing. We show testing as in, like, for example, we show like the box, for example, then we can do like Q&As where people ask us Q&As and we can talk about and answer their questions via a Q&A. That does really work as well. And also just bringing about positive results literally answers the question about a root cause approach, because that's when you know that when a client actually sees the test report, they can really see what's going on, what's out of balance, what's optimal. And then they know that when you actually give them a plan of action, they can see why you've actually gone down that route, because you're using the evidence from the report to actually give them a more personal approach, but even more thorough, to get to the bottom of what their issues are.
And I think that a lot of the time when you first share on a social media about functional testing, it can feel not a little bit scary, but like, you know, am I doing the right thing? And it doesn't mean that when you first start sharing about functional testing, clients going to start running at you. That's not always the case, but being consistent and constantly sharing, like maybe a sample report, maybe little bits of, like we showed on the slide, you know, like little bits of information explaining what the test is showing, just building conversations with people, showing awareness that these tests exist, because a lot of the time people don't even know that they can get tested. They say like, oh, I've never heard about this test before. And then you sort of start these conversations, you explain how the testing works, you explain what benefits the person is getting, just like building these trust as well for the people to be able to get into thinking, oh, maybe I really want to try this myself. Maybe I would like to see what's going on with my gut microbiome, or I would like to see, you know, what's the optimal levels are, and just starting these conversations with the people. And I think for me and Aisha, when we first started, we were quite clueless, if we can say so. So it's trial and error. It's not to be afraid of making mistakes. Social media sometimes makes you feel like everyone's watching, but really every experience is a learning curve. So it might not go really smoothly and well the first time you try it, but just keep doing it and don't give up, and you will see the results eventually.
Yeah, 100% agree. Now, just with captions to encourage your audience. So a CTA is a call to action. And what that is that when you're writing your captions on your Instagram post, whether it's a static post, a reel, a carousel, it's really important that you add a call to action, because when your followers or anyone who's watching that and sees the post, they want to make sure that they know what to do after reading that. And when you put a call to action, for example, like DM in comment, and then you apostrophe like the topic, for example, then you do eventually, I would, like B says before, you don't see immediate results by doing things like this, but once you start to do that for every single post, you do get people eventually reaching out to you and saying, yes, I've got this. They'll DM that word, and then that's how you can engage in a conversation, and that's how you can have back and forth conversation. People want to understand what you do and what you offer, and then that's how you can bring about the sale and get, you know, the client to sign up.
Because as much as we would like to think, I've mentioned this yesterday, but I think this is really important to say, that as much as we think about ourselves as experts, your followers not necessarily can think that. So you need to constantly mention your services, and constantly saying, like, I do functional testing, I give this service, I give that service. Not always just thinking that giving tips on social media is the only way to grow. That's not the truth. It's just showing what you do and how you can help, not necessarily solving their problem there and then on the post. or story or the reel, just like making sure that you create the awareness that these tests exist, that your service exists, and then people eventually will be following you for a while, and then they'll reach out and say, okay, I want your services, I would like to get tested, or I would like to solve my acne, or I would like to solve my eczema, whatever you decide you can help people with. And just constantly reminding them about what you do, just really repetitive, like my sentences now, just constantly saying the same thing, so they actually go, oh yeah, I actually know I need this. And on your captions as well, I always feel that people just love talking about their problems or reading about their problems. So concentrating on the problems rather than solving it, or concentrating on something where they could think, oh, I've got this, I need help with this. So sometimes I like to add a sample report or a part of it in my posts, so people can look at it. Okay, so maybe this will help me solve my problem. I would like to reach out. I would like to have a chat about it. And I feel that this really helps.
And this is something that we used to speak about quite a lot. But do you remember when we used to literally write our posts, like not together, but we discussed like what can we do, how do we make it better, how do we make it more engaging? Then we came to understand that actually sharing like a report that we've mentioned on our slide over here, something like that, for example, that's a thyroid profile. So if you're talking about something to do with thyroid issues, then it's people can also relate to the type of test that you can also offer with that. And when we started doing that, initially it didn't seem much at all, but then with time, after a few months, people started saying, oh yeah, I've been following you for a while. How does the testing work? And then you that's how you get people to really understand why you're using the testing and how it can benefit them.
Feel discouraged, right? And just know that the results don't come overnight. So the same when we start, new regime of like eating, it doesn't really overnight changes the way you feel. It takes some time. So the same with social media. Growing your social media takes time. So just don't be afraid to share the tests. Don't be afraid to share people's, how people benefited, the ones you were working with. Just sharing the whole experience of testing for people to better understand what they're getting when they start functional testing.
Yeah, I think next slide. So our own experience of functional testing, well, obviously we kind of covered this before, like doing it yourself, really, you can help other people because they're going to ask lots of questions. How does it work? What do we do? That's a lot that people ask us, and they want to understand, is it accurate? Do you get results? So doing it yourself highly benefits the people that you end up working with eventually. And I think it's really important that, yeah, you carry it out yourself and you know exactly what you're doing, because that's how you can really discuss it with your audience. And when you're talking about the testing in stories, for example, you can give a true reflection, so you know exactly what's what. And I think, yeah.
Yeah,
Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would like to add. So for me, I always share my own experience on social media. Basically, years ago, I had a really bad skin, and I done a few different tests, but at the same time as I was having a bad skin, I also had really severe health anxiety. So that's when I actually started calling it a certain strain in the test. So I've done the test, and basically I was just below detectable levels on certain strains, which are linked to mood and anxiety. And she's laughing. Yeah, and I felt it really a huge, massive difference myself. So when I speak to people and then I can feel that they are maybe doubtful, maybe unsure if do I really need this test, maybe, maybe I'll just try with a different approach. It's easier for me to connect with them. It's easier for me to explain how it felt. And like when we're trying to help people, it's much easier when they can connect with you, like you've been there and I've been there, and I made it out of that situation in a really dark place. And I think connecting the testing with your own experience and sharing with a person who is actually struggling at the moment can really help. And on social media, you're sort of sharing it with hundreds, thousands of people. So out of them, some will come and they can really enhance, you know, the healing journey by using the functional testing. So that was just my, yeah, come on.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add to that was as well, like understanding how to do the test, but knowing how to read the report with it. You know, essentially you get to understand each bacteria, what's responsible for what. And then when things are like out of sync and don't work, you just kind of, when you see that with yourself and when you help a client as well, you can explain to them the reasoning behind it. I think it's a bit more easier to explain why things are happening because you've gone through that yourself. So
I could even go as far as say, like, I even recognize certain people traits by looking at the thing. And it's funny because you start saying like, okay, do you experience this? And they go, yeah. And I say, I'm not a fortune teller, but I can tell from your test how you're actually feeling.
yeah.
And I think people go like, oh yeah, I really can resonate with this. I really feel that way. It's easier for them to follow the plan as well. So they have more belief in what you're doing, because a lot of the time in our work, people have to believe that this is going to work because they come into the world. Some of them didn't have the perfect diet, or they have the perfect diet, but it doesn't work for them. So for them to choose a different path, when they have something written in front of them and you already can explain how they feel, they have more faith in you, and then the compliance is much better. So we reach much better results. The people feeling like you help them, they recommend you to others, and you just have a thriving practice, basically. That's what I feel happens as an Aisha.
Absolutely. And people reach out to us now and say, oh, what test is good for this? And that's exactly what we wanted to achieve. And we've, you know, fingers crossed, like we're trying to get to that point even more now. So very
I think
grateful.
the main thing is to just like enhance their experience. Obviously, you know, there's going to be times when it's going to be harder, and then it's going to be when it's going to be easier. There's, you know, different type of clients, but I think when we have something in front of us, like what's really happening inside of them, it's much easier for us to create a plan as well. And then with social media, the great thing is that we also have, sometimes when we retest, we can also share two things, like how it went from this to this, which really helps to increase engagement as well and start more conversations and then help more people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think on to the next one now. So just talking about, we're going to just mention a couple of cases here, just talking about success stories. So should I start this one? So
I was talking enough.
Yeah. So just talking about, so as I mentioned, I do work with children as well as women, and then now obviously men as well. But I've had scenarios when well, one particular case study, is I had a client come to me and her son had severe eczema, to the point where he was itching all night, and literally she sent pictures to me, and all his skin was like completely just flared up, rashes, bleeding, and it would just started spreading on his arms, his feet. And then she came to me and she was like, I just don't know what's going on with him, and he doesn't sleep at night, he goes to school, he can't focus because he's constantly itching his skin. So I told her, I said, more than likely he's only 6 years old, but let's do the stool test and let's see what comes back. So the test came back and it showed that he had a very inflamed gut lining. And when I had a consultation with his mum told, filled me in on exactly his diet, what he eats, what he likes, what he doesn't like. And we made the changes accordingly. And having an inflamed gut lining as well, had to make sure that, okay, I had to take out inflammatory foods and things that are going to drive inflammation. And after doing that, literally within a week, his skin completely cleared up. I was shocked. Obviously, it was still there, a bit rashy, a bit, as it does, because he's itched it so much that it's kind of left scarring. But within 1 week, the mother called me and she was like, I cannot believe how much of a change with my son. And then the school even noticed that, he wasn't itching as much. And then the mum said to me, oh, he's been sleeping through the night. And I was just like, it just felt so rewarding that just doing GI effects with this client was an absolute game changer. And I have so much faith in doing it that I really do see results so quickly in comparison to people that I work with who don't do testing. So that's how I know that it is really, really worth doing. But yeah, over to you, Babe.
Yeah, so my success story was about a person who came to me with a perfect diet. Like, I was listening during the consultation and I said to him, listen, you eat better than me. So it was all organic, grass-fed meat. It was just like everything was spot on, but he could only sleep 2, 3 hours a night. And it was clear that even though with this perfect diet, something was not working. So we've done metabolomics to just optimize his health, help him with sleep. And we've done the testing, and within a couple of weeks, he just messaged me saying, listen, you just changed my life completely. I actually can sleep now normally, and I feel like a different person. Thank you so much. And I think stories like that actually show that in our work, sometimes people will come over or come to see us and say, listen, I've got a perfect diet. Literally, I eat so well. But for some reason, something is not working. What can we do? And when you look at the person and you just can't see what's going on, can you, when we do the test, we can actually see what's going on inside and what needs changing to actually optimize that sleep, optimize the health in general. And I think that's why metabolomics is probably one of my favorite tests. I work a lot with people who are generally high achievers. They want to do well in life, they want to do all these things, but sometimes their health is sort of telling them slow down, stop. So we're trying to find the links between what they're doing now, even though if they might be doing amazing, like with their supplements, with their food, with their training, but just to bring it to another level. And I often share their stories on my Instagram as well, which gives people that belief that, oh yeah, you know what, actually this helps, this can help me as well. It helped that person, it might help it might help me. So asking the clients permission to share little bits of their journey, obviously not given any details where they could be recognized, or you know just like staying anonymous basically, by sharing them stories helps other people to understand that they need help and the help is there if they need it. I think Aisha also had some people sending her videos of them talking and actually saying how their journey went.
Yeah, people actually did like video testimonials. So again, they just sent it because they really felt the difference by doing the testing. Obviously, the testing is an add-on to what you help them with in terms of their diet and whatever supplements you recommend to them. But I think they generally felt a change in their lives. And like I got a message yesterday of someone who said that their life has transformed completely. And just that feeling of, like you feel rewarded that you can really help change people's lives. And I think since we've included testing again into our businesses, we've really, really helped our clients achieve what they want to achieve. And clients also understand that it's not an overnight process. It does take time because depending on conditions that they come with, the severity of the symptom, yeah, it can take, some clients' progress can be 3 months, some can be a year, but just having that extra information, it really does bring about better results in the long term.
Yeah, and
Just
also like I think social media is really great. That normally it would be just someone done, a test and they had great results and then they share with their relatives or, friends or the closest circle. But with social media is great that we can actually share it with broader audience, so we can help more people to understand how important it is to look after their health, how important it is to look for these root causes, not to give up, because a lot of the time people went through the certain changes, they didn't see that, massive improvement and they just go, oh no, it doesn't work. So giving the hope as well to them, just like there is another way, there is more avenues to take, there is a lot of things we can actually do once we really understand what's going on with your body, and then just like shifting that from where you are today to where you want to be. And social media is a great platform to share these positive changes in people's lives. But obviously, if they don't want to share who they actually are, you can just share their testimonials or little messages they send you.
yeah, just moving on to the next slide. So we kind of touched a little bit on this yesterday about building, like being consistent, for example, on social media, because again, if you want to bring testing and you want to discuss it, it's important that you do mention it often, because mentioning it once and you don't bring it up again after a few weeks, people aren't going to actually understand the reason why you're talking about it. And then when you match and explain benefits, with the testing in relation to the post that you're actually writing a caption for, people then see the link and the connection why you're, why you want to talk about the test and why the test is important. So the consistency is really important when it comes to mentioning about testing, especially when it comes to captions. But even like Bea was saying on stories anyway, talking about it on,
I talk about on stories as well. I think like especially when you're sharing your own story, like your own journey, you don't really need to create posts about that. But just like talking to the closest people on stories are going to be the ones who watch you on a daily basis. So you can actually share your own journey, share about testing and like every few days or however you feel the need for it. So just not thinking that you shared once about test, nobody bought it, nobody was interested, that's it, it's gone, it's done and dusted, I'm not going to do that again. Not getting into that mindset that every single thing you're going to share on social media is going to bring sales. That's not how it works. It's sort of sharing the awareness that test exists, that there is a chance to create a change by doing the test, and constantly being consistent with the same message what you want to. That's why we're repeating ourselves today and yesterday, just being consistent to and trying to send the same message out.
Yeah, on to the next slide.
So I know about the educating the audience. Did we speak about that?
Yeah. No, well, actually, the audience is like back into the point where talking about it in stories and just consistently mentioning about it. I think that's
And then
educating.
explaining what it is, basically, because a lot of the time when I say, people ask me, what do you do? And I say, I specialize in functional testing. They say, what that is that a blood test? No, it's not. It's a poo test. It's a urine test, and explaining how it works. Because a lot of the time, like 7 out of 10 people won't have never ever heard about it. So just starting the concept, you can't really sell something what people don't know about. So if you obviously know about the testing and you're absolute pro about it, that's great. But a lot of the time a person is going to be not informed what that is. They know that this blood test, and you can get that with NHS, but you explain why you can't get the stool analysis on NHS and why can't you have metabolomics done on the NHS. So just explaining to people. And another thing is that there's other tests like thyroid test which can be done with Genova. Some people just don't want to wait them 3-4 weeks, and sometimes the NHS will refuse to do the broader panel for the thyroid. So just explaining to a client that is possible, or explaining to your social media that, listen, there is a private option where we can offer. And
yeah,
some people
yeah, and also as well, like people say to me that, oh, I've done a stool test with the GP, but then I have to say to them and explain to them that it's just very standard, it's very generic, it's not going to actually get you answers. So when you actually educate them that way and make them understand that GP stool testing is just really baseline, it doesn't really cover like the comprehensive. What I love about GIFX with stool testing especially is the markers, like the color coded, the testers are color coded, so that's what I really like. And I also find that when the client sees the report as well, it's very visual to the eye, so they can see exactly what's going on, what's working well, what isn't working well. And I think visually they know that, okay, this is what we need to work on. But educating them to that point is just making building that awareness. Sorry, Bea.
So for example, for my clients, because I work a lot with people with health anxiety, a lot of the time seeing a test where everything's green is like, gives them, you know what, I'm actually well. So I think a lot of the time, sometimes to give the person that sort of knowledge that they're absolutely fine, and we actually can do certain steps to increase the way the better they feel, is another benefit of the testing, that it's not always to find that there's something wrong with them, but it's actually to rule things in or to rule things out, or to just show that, okay, you're actually doing fine, and it's all going to be okay, just let's carry on with what we're doing and it's all going to be fine.
Yeah, and also like just conversation with followers kind of links to what I'm going to say first about polls, because what I find is when I use polls on stories and I talk about the test and I say, are you interested? And then people click yes or they click no, then that's how I start a conversation with them, because I'll message those people, ask them what they've shown an interest in the testing. Do they want to go forward, or do they want some more information? And then just offering them discovery calls. not just about the testing, but again, if you can, you know, encourage them to do it, then you can explain more over call than just back and forth over Instagram message, because that can be a bit like they come on, then they go offline for a while and they come back after so long, then they might not reply. But if you get them on the discovery call, you know you've got them booked in, then you've got a better chance then on the discovery call to explain about what you do, how it works, and then you can incorporate and bring the testing into it and explain more about the value of how beneficial the testing would be over a discovery call rather than doing it through Instagram. But if someone's busy, for example, and they can't book in, then you have, yeah, we do try our best then in those occasions to give as much information to the person who's messaging and explain to them that way how the testing can really benefit them.
And always share the value, like explain how great it is to do the test, how great it is to actually get these answers which you were looking for. And I think it gives them a peace of mind. I'm coming back to my health anxiety clients. It gives them a peace of mind. They feel like, okay, so you know what? We've got these answers, we can work on these things. And then sharing that on social media, not being afraid of like tell how it works and just explaining like you would explain. And I know sometimes it feels, oh, I said that 3 days ago and like, do I really need to repeat myself? But yeah, sometimes the person will go through stories not even listening to you. This does happen. Sometimes you'll have new people who are just like coming on and seeing, you know, what you'll have to say. Or sometimes they're going to be in the mood, you know what, I actually feel not really well today. I might contact her and ask how, you know, how does this work? And then, yeah, Aisha really loves to use the polls for the engaging with people. I sometimes just write my own stories of how I feel and how I felt and what improvements I've done.
You
So
guarantee this be once a week.
yeah, I just like I love to talk about myself. I really like to share my because I feel like a lot of the time, especially with people with health anxiety, if they're struggling and they feel like, you know, you feel isolated, you feel on your own, and then if there is a chance that I can help someone by sharing my story, it might be embarrassing to come out with what, you know, I have to. Sometimes I post the stories with my, you know, really inflamed skin or like really eyes, and you know, if that helps someone, I'm happy to just like put myself into that vulnerable position and just say, okay, we're all human, we all been through this, the help is there if you need it. Just don't feel like you're just isolated and you're on your own. There is actually you know, good outcomes of this. Like I feel I have no issues now with my skin, and I really my you know, health anxiety is not an issue either anymore. So if I can do this, you can do this, and I actually will walk you through this journey. And we'll use Genova for testing to make sure that we really get it right. That is what I usually use my social media platform to just give people hope that we can find solutions to your struggles, and then providing that clear next steps, what we're doing. So not just being wishy-washy, or we might do this and we might do that, just giving, okay, so we're doing this now, we're doing that now, we're gonna, this is the outcome. Just making sure that they understand what they're getting into, that they're gonna have to put in a box and then keep it in the fridge, so it doesn't come as a surprise. Just sharing all the journey and like explaining to them, keeping the conversation. And I think really important is not to leaving them on their own. So always like talking to them, always like helping them just have like a really nice experience of working with you.
Yeah, on to the next slide. Oh, yeah, I didn't realize. So,
Yes,
thank you to everyone.
so much. So we'll now be taking some questions if anyone wants to pop them in the Q&A box. And thank you both for that lovely session again today. So we had some questions come in earlier. One of the questions was, how do you approach clients when you want them to retest?
How do you approach? So when okay, for example, like when I get the report back and I've seen that it's quite there's a lot going on under whichever test that they've done, they can see, then I usually do that after about 9 to 12 months, depending on the symptoms. But but I'd give it that amount of time, because doing it before that, I think it'll be too quick. But 9 to 12 months, I'd say, to retest, because that's when you know you've worked with them for a while and a good enough time to make sure that, you know, hopefully there is changes made and they have improved.
It depends, like, really, for me, sometimes it's like if they really want to retest and see what's going on, we can sometimes do that a bit sooner. So it really depends what the client wants to do. I'm not one of them practitioners where I say there's only one way. I think there's different ways, and having that conversation with a client is comfortable with, I think that is really important, like never forgetting that we're working with people. So I think a lot of the time the problem is, well, that's from my experience, because once again, I had so many problems that I feel like I've been around the world with it. So, you know, like, people wouldn't tell me what's going on, and they wouldn't let me be active in my health decisions I make towards my health. So when I approach and say, like, okay, we would benefit from retesting, what do you think about it? How do you feel about it? And then they make a decision, you know what, I'm fine for now. Let's wait a little bit and work on it. And then if they say, oh no, you know what, it's actually, I'm okay with retesting, then we retest. So I think every case is different, and always having that person in front of you and having a conversation with them. Okay, what can we do for you to feel comfortable? I think you would benefit from it, but do you feel like you want to do it? That is always my approach.
Yeah, and then you spoke quite a little bit about your favourite testing. What is your favourite test, or is it more against, you know, finding the right test for that individual client?
Yeah, I think finding the right one, but if I have to point fingers, that would be metabolomics. I absolutely love it. I think it's an amazing test because it shows a little bit of gut as well. So we can see, like, if we need to test further, if we need to dig deeper. And then if we don't, we find things on the metabolomics, we actually can really transform lives. And I feel I've seen so many nice, you know, stories, so many people telling me that they really feel the difference. And then a lot of the time people also, they want to supplement, don't they? They've been taking supplements for years and they just don't know what's, you know, taking this, that and the other, and it helps them to see, like, where their levels are at. So for me, I absolutely love metabolomics.
I like both, to be honest. I think because I work with skin as well, and a lot of skin conditions stem from the gut, I do like to start with stool testing. But then what I tend to do is I start with stool testing, and then later on, I then do metabolomics with them to see a bit about what's changed, and also, like Bea said, nutrients, what supplements that they need, what, you know, what they are lacking at this stage. So yeah, both really for me really do work.
I do like facts as well, but if I had to choose one, I just probably would. Obviously, everything, like 70% of our immunity is in the gut, isn't it? So we can't forget the importance of it all. But again, I'm gonna stick to metabolomics.
And Aisha, you mentioned before that you use GI effects with your child client, where you recovered their skin and eczema and stuff. So do you think that you may have taken a different route or a different protocol had you not done the test first, or do you think that you may have not seen the results as instantly if you hadn't had that data in front of you to begin with?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I probably just would have gone down what I would normally try to do, depending on what the initial symptoms are with his eczema. But I think it would have been quite baseline at that point. But doing the testing initially, I realised that I knew what I had to target, because the mother and the son, well, the son more than the mother obviously, has gone through so much. She was just like, yeah, I really just want to understand what's going on, because I don't want to waste time. I want to get to the bottom of it, and I really want to. Sometimes people, the way I see it, they kind of look at it like a quicker way to get to achieve what they want to achieve, which I do agree to a certain extent. But I also know that, and they also, which I make them aware, is that we have to, like, if there's so much going on in the stool test, for example, they've got a very aggravated gut lining, and then they've got pathogenic bacteria. But if their digestion isn't working, then you have to optimize that before you can move on to other areas of the testing and what the report's showing. So yeah, so I like to work in stages when I see what's happening, and that's how I feel like it does work that way for me anyway.
So I also want to mention that sometimes, especially when we're working with eczema, so it can be two different things. The gut barrier can be inflamed with high secretory IgA, but sometimes we can have issues with histamine producing bacteria, isn't it? So the sort of different things, when you see a child in front of you, you can't really see what's going on with them. So testing really helps to get to the bottom of what is the main issue and what do we target first, rather than just going out doing bits of this and doing bits of that, or just throwing everything at child at once. When we work with children, it's really important to do it in a gentle way, isn't it? So we want children to be comfortable. If we can do little experiments with grown-ups, we don't want to do that with children. We want to make their journey as comfortable as possible. So I always feel that testing is really great way for children to see what's going on with the children, because they're not vocal, they can't really say as much as, you know, the adults can really say. So I really find it really beneficial for children.
Amazing. And then you both spoke about using client case studies on social media. How do you approach that? Because I'm assuming some people would be quite hesitant and think, oh my gosh, no. But how do you kind of have that conversation or broach that conversation?
If a person's telling me they don't want to share their journey, I will not share the journey. Like, I think the confidentiality is the most important thing. So if their health journey is just for them, I will stick to their, you know, what they want. I will not try to convince them that we need to share. I do sometimes explain, I think, listen, this would really help other people. I'm not going to mention any, you know, names, no locations, like really anonymous thing. But if they feel not comfortable even with that, I'm just not going to say, okay, I'll drop this and it's fine. Just will keep it silent. If a person is like, yeah, I don't mind, please share, I think this will help, then I will share this on the social media, and I will share like the messages they send me, or I will say, like, you know, parts of their test on there, you know, explaining what's going on and just sharing it in that way for people to understand that there is hope there and there's things we can do to help them.
Yeah, because I also notice as well, like with having like skin conditions, not a lot of people want to share their before and afters, because it's a visual condition. But again, it's like you ask them, but then they also understand why you want to share it. But just like covering the eyes, for example, they allow that. But then I find that my clients don't, they prefer more messages, like sharing a message, you can delete the names, like Bea said, it's anonymous. So I think that works better than sharing visuals, because again, not everyone is comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
But if they're not comfortable, they're not sort of crossing that boundary. That we don't need to forget the social media is great, but there will be a lot of people seeing it. So sometimes if they don't feel comfortable with that, it's just like, let's leave it. And you know, there's gonna be comfortable with it, and there's others who won't. So just finding them who just love sharing everything like I do.
Yeah,